none of these kids should be getting the media attention that we're getting. Like, we aren't experts. We don't have all the solutions.
All right, glad to be with you. We don't have that much time because our next guest is a diva. Well, he's no David Hogg, I'll tell you that much. But you can follow him on the Twitter at Kyle Kashuv. Of course, student at Stoneman Douglas High. A lot of people don't remember the high school. That's how quickly this news fleets. Parkland, Florida. And we had him on the show, and ever since then, he's now been gallivanting around with all the other important hosts and politicians. Kyle, how are you, sir?
Good. How are you?
Well, I would have been doing better if you'd have had a pair of headphones anywhere in your house.
Sorry. No.
I feel like that was a power move. I don't do headphones.
Kyle Kashuv doesn't do headphones.
Kyle Kashuv doesn't do headphones. Maybe that's for that's for those other kids at the town halls. How have you been doing? So I remember you did our show. We talked about this we talked about everything that had been going on. It was still really hot in the news, and ever since then, I've been seeing you everywhere.
Well, yeah, we were over in D.C. and I caught the flu from meeting all the politicians.
Yes, it's called the swamp flu.
That's true.
Yeah, it's a particular strain, and it makes you
aggressive little bastard.
Yeah, for some reason you don't have it. You're fine. You have a healthy relationship with your wife. You get it. All of a sudden, you're hitting on men in stalls and truck stops. It's a very weird flu. But who have you been? So first off, let me tell you. I've said this before. I'm very uncomfortable, generally speaking, with the idea of having anyone young, kind of underage on the show because I hate how they're politicized in the media. But I do think there's a difference here because first off, you were kind of dragged into it a little unwillingly. You wanted, and what you were doing is the other students were out there immediately on every single outlet that you could possibly imagine, and all you said was like, hold on a second. They don't speak for all of us. And so I think, okay, since they're expressing an opinion for everyone, it's necessary to have a voice of reason like yourself. So do you feel like that's how most people see you? Do you feel you've been embraced at least as a voice of balance, or how have you been perceived?
I think that's pretty much where I came into like the entire debate, as in like, let's kumbaya this.
Don't say.
And let's find the middle ground. And so now it's basically when I came in because it was representing the conservative point of view in the Second Amendment, but also finding the middle ground. We did find the middle ground, and while everyone was protesting and marching, we talked to legislators, and we got the Stop School Violence Act passed now into the House. That's going to hit the Senate, get on the omnibus, and pass the day before the march.
Well, there you go, because you met with some U.S. senators, right?
I don't remember that. I don't remember how many. It was so many. I don't remember.
I don't remember how many senators.
And
the foie gras and the caviar. You can't imagine.
The money.
I'm Kyle Kashuv.
The Twitter followers. Where are they?
So you met with them. What is this? What you're talking about now? You found a middle ground. What is the middle ground legislatively? What are we looking at? And I know you've played an active role.
I mean, it's clear that we're not going to pass anything that have with gun control.
Okay.
In the Congress. So practically it was everything that can be done preemptively to stop a shooter without like talking about gun control.
Okay.
Because I don't even think gun control is the issue in this debate. And it's clear, like looking factually, gun control won't solve anything. So what we push the Stop School Violence Act, which it lets teachers, it gives the funding for better recognition of kids who do have these issues, better treatment of these kids, better development of technology at schools itself, and better communication between the FBI and the schools.
Right, exactly, and that's important. And by the way, that doesn't necessarily get into the territory what you're talking about of, hey, you took a Xanax, so now you can't buy a gun because of mental health issues. Because last time when we spoke, I was saying this idea was also way too broad, and we had to hone in a little bit on something specific. And this seems like a good start. And you're saying this is going to pass the day before the march, you believe?
That if everything goes according to plan, it already passed the House. Practically unanimous vote.
So what'll this do for, let's say, let's walk us through a scenario. And first off, I just find this, I don't know why I'm so tickled that David Hogg is everywhere. He's like, the NRA practically threatened us, but because they say they don't like you. He's out there on every single show, and at the same time, Kyle is here, and he actually has some legislation that might make it the day before the march, the day before the final PR stand. They might already be up Crap Creek. So let's go through a specific example. Let's say a kid is really disturbed, exhibiting signs. What would this legislation allow for example, or help with that we don't have right now in place?
I mean, right now, practically all the legislation that it does is that it teaches teachers and officers and students how to properly identify these kids and report them to the proper authorities. because right now a teacher can't really do anything as of right now, and teaching and like educating these teachers on what to do when they do meet a kid who has these issues is a good step in the right direction, because honestly what happened at my school could have been averted. Like it could have been made sure that wouldn't have happened had like people followed the legislation in place already.
Right. Well, and now this is to strengthen that. So how do you identify someone, I guess? How do you ensure that it isn't? And I know, listen, I don't expect you to have all the answers, because I know, listen, you're a younger chap.
Well, no. What it does is here's the difference. It gives the funding to the states, and then the states, it's up to the states to create the systems and to create the programs to teach the teachers.
Okay.
So like the federal government, what I've been like very supportive of, I don't want to see the federal government telling the states what to do.
Mm-hmm.
Right. I think this is up to the states.
Yeah.
So it gives the money to the states, and then the states decide what they want to do with it. They decide in what different aspects of the bill the money needs to go to.
Right. I can already see the backlash from that. We're going to go, well, look, this is gonna be a problem, and states are gonna just take that money and they're gonna give it to their rich oil buddies. That's what they're gonna say. And then you're gonna be on the hook for Halliburton, Kyle. Do you want to be on the hook for Halliburton?
I have no clue what that is.
Okay, all right. I forgot the Bush years are foreign to him. Imagine that, growing up in America where you really didn't.
That is kind of crazy to me.
Do you remember George W. Bush as president, or is that were you too young to really remember that? No, okay.
No, I don't.
Yeah, see, I grew up, and that was my high school years, where you probably grew up in the high school years where everything Barack Obama did was amazing. I grew up in the high school years where everything George W. Bush did, just everyone was like, what an idiot. Oh, he doesn't know anything. And then Barack Obama happened, and I was out of high school, and I no longer wanted to swallow a knife every day. So one thing, though, it does that I get concerned about is we talk about like identifying students. Listen, high school for a lot of people can be a really, really depressing place. So okay, so there you go. So I imagine you've run into it. So how do you differentiate, or how do we expect them to be reporting different? A kid who just says like, oh man, I hate my life. Oh, I'd rather die than take the math test, versus some kid who's like, these are the school plans, and I'm gonna make sure I wear this vest. How do we make sure that it's differentiated and not used as a tool, right? Where you just go, hey, that kid could shoot up the school, and then he gets on a crap list.
I honestly don't know how they would identify a kid who's not, because it's really like it's a very specific matter. It's the same thing of like having the legislative and saying that if you're mentally like disturbed, you shouldn't be able to acquire a weapon. It's the same debate of like being able to properly identify the person and not like overreact. And I don't know.
So this is more so about correcting the breakdown in communication that happens between like a state level. They don't really have.
No, it's about what every state deems necessary, what they want to do to ensure this won't happen again.
Yeah.
In a very like subset group of what they're allowed to do, and it's very broad. The group, they can like choose to go in like technology. They can choose to better the communication between the FBI. They can work on like apps of reporting. It's all up to the states.
Right. Yeah. Well, listen, we've seen it when states with education tend to do better than one big federal bureaucracy in Washington, D.C. You know what I loved is I just asked you a specific question, and you said, I don't know. You know who would never say I don't know? David Hogg. Have you ever heard David Hogg say, I don't know?
I don't think anyone has really followed up on any questions.
That's actually, okay, that's what we call a segue, Kyle. You didn't even realize, because that was going to be my next question. Do you see any specific plans other than NRA sucks and ban all semi-automatic weapons like we saw at the CNN town hall? Do you see any concrete legislative plans from your peers, people like David Hogg, people who are in the...
No, this is exactly what happened in school. I talk to kids like, hey, look, you're right, okay? Tell me anything you want, but what do you propose? And none of them gave me anything.
None of them.
I talked to like so many peers today, and I'm like, look, what do you propose? Like, what do you want to do? Like, even if I don't agree with you, just what do you want to see happen? And none of them gave me an answer. And like, it's practically the same thing with the march. Two different things with the march. There are people in the march that say that we don't want to take away your guns. I remember David Hogg saying we don't want to take away your guns, but specifically on the website, if you can pull it up right now and scroll down, it says that no one should be able to have an assault rifle. So there is a gun agenda going on here, and it is quite somewhat of an anti-gun march.
Right. It's like no one wants to take your guns.
And I don't see any actual legislative changes other than they're actually being pushed. All I hear is marching. Marching is fine for activism and raising awareness, but if you actually want legislative change, you talk to the legislators and you propose something. Nothing's being proposed.
Right. That's a really interesting point. First off, when you say you spoke with people today, I know it wasn't David Hogg because I saw him on the telly, so I know that he's not there. He's basically tutored on set. It's like Leonardo DiCaprio on What's Eating Gilbert Grape. He's just on set and he's like, all right, I'll just get my GED. I've got bigger things to do. No, that's a good point, because then they said we don't want to take away your guns, just assault rifles. Well, just assault weapons. Well, what's an assault weapon? And then you look into legislation and it's basically all weapons other than revolvers and pump action shotguns. It's every every double stack Glock, it's every Walther, our sponsor there, that you would use for personal defense outside of the It's the majority, or certainly a plurality. No, I would actually absolutely say majority, definitively majority of guns that people would use for self-defense. So there you go. That's exactly the point.
Also, what defines an assault rifle? Like, you tell me what defines an assault rifle.
Yeah, it doesn't mean anything. Well, I think they just say assault weapons, not even assault rifle. Because assault rifle.
No, they say weapon of war. They say weapon of war.
Yes. And by the way, I know about the war because I've been tattered by the war of dead Johnny Mathis, aka Don Lemon on CNN.
Look at all these mean tweets.
Look at all these mean tweets. The NRA threatened to kill me. No, wait, hold on a second. I'm pretty sure no one threatened to kill you. They just said that you were wrong. Ah! Sorry, I know you have to go back to school with him, but you know, it's uncomfortable. And this is what I said. There's a very different approach. You get asked a question. You say, well, I don't know. David Hogg knows everything. Only there's no actual legislation. There are no propositions there, whereas you've met with legislators. It is a quintessential example.
I mean, I'd further on that. I'd further on saying that, especially in the town hall, that no one furthered up on the questions. When people said like stuff that were like outrageous, no one followed through saying like, no, that's not true. When they say falsehoods on live television, no one follows through or like questions them.
Yeah.
At all.
Yeah, that's a good point, because they tried to say that I remember Dana Lash didn't do that, where she what's the name of the girl? Looks like the Minority Report Oracle shaped head. You know who I'm talking about. She goes to your school. You must
Emma?
Yeah, you probably had a crush on her at one point. So the point is, she was up there and she goes, "Don't say no on air, because her friends are gonna come after you, the chain gang."
I think jealous.
And so she goes, Dana Lash. What of the I think she said Loesch, so she didn't even do her research on the name. She said, "What are you going to do? Are you willing to stand up right now and say that no one should own semi-automatic?" It was something broad enough where she basically included the word semi-automatic weapons. People can go watch the clip.
Not fully semi-automatic?
Yeah, not fully semi-automatic. And Dana Lash answered, said, "Listen, what happened here was a travesty. This should not have happened. This person definitely should not have had a firearm." So she was trying to find middle ground. And the girl goes, "You're not answering my questions. Will you make sure that no one has access to a semi-automatic?" And everyone started cheering. I'm going, hold on a second. She just actually answered your question about the Knicks background check, what went wrong here, all the red flags. But you're saying she's not answering your question unless she commits right there, taking an oath, on the CNN spec sheet to ban all semi-automatic weapons. And she doesn't know what semi-automatic is. The leading question's there, and they cheer. But like you said, no one ever questioned them on it. And the police officer, the sheriff. The sheriff, it would have been his job to say, "Oh, hold on, sorry, sweetheart. What you mean to say is you mean these high-capacity specific rifles, because the gun I have on my hip here that's a semi-automatic, so you don't mean to include that." But no one followed up.
Yeah.
Do you follow up when you're at school, though? Please tell me you do. I think.
What do you mean?
Like in school, all the things that we can't say, that we can't follow up, do you do it for us? Like, do you walk in the hall and go,
"Oh,
hey"?
no, I don't. I haven't talked to like any really one of them like in school. What I do is I like debates with my friends, like not my friends, but kids in class. They don't turn into debates with my friends. They're just straight up arguments and yelling, because you can do that.
Well, I appreciate your candor.
With like kids in my class, before all this happened, I spoke with two kids from like two leaders from the Never Again movement, and they told me that they want to ban fully automatic assault rifles. They've banned since 1934. So, right. And then they come out to me like, we want to ban all assault rifles, and they couldn't define what an assault rifle is or like which specific one. So like it's an indication that they truly don't know what they're talking about. And then specifically at school, I would talk to kids and I would say, "Look, what do you want to do?" They're like, "We have to ban assault rifles," and I hit them with the statistics, and then they're like, "I don't like how you tweet, Kyle," and I was like, "Okay."
Yes, it's like, well, hold on a second, look at this. You're a dick.
It's not what you tweet, it's how you tweet it.
Yeah, it's how you tweet it. Okay, how should I? You know what you do with that? Tell them, here's what you do. Repeat the fact and say, okay, 500,000 to 3 million defensive uses of firearms each year. The vast majority of public shootings not committed by rifles or quote unquote assault rifles of any kind. How should I tweet it? Ask them that
Should you
next time.
tweet it?
Yeah.
Here.
I mean, you've
Here,
been
help.
banned. I don't know if you can tweet.
No, I can't tweet. I'm saying for you. I'm living vicariously
Oh,
for
okay.
you.
I
I've been
thought you were
banned.
asking me to give you
Yeah.
advice.
No, I'm saying just to
how I
ask
should
them.
tweet
Say, how should I tweet it? And
okay. I'll
that's
do
that's
that.
actually
But
very.
that gets you an answer.
Yeah, they won't know what
They're
to
probably
say.
going to say, they probably would be like, don't tweet it.
Exactly. So that's
That
what
would
this comes
be
down
good.
to. They just don't want to hear different points of view. Period.
I mean, it like the biggest factual evidence that I just constantly say is that 3% of all gun crimes are with an assault rifle. 68% of those are suicides, and the majority is gang violence and criminal activity.
Right. Well, even
So
further, by
banning
the way,
assault rifles isn't even an issue. And then you just say the same thing. The 1994 to 2004 assault rifles ban proved inconclusive for actually having a change.
assault weapons ban. I hate to correct you, but because that's important, because assault rifle in the military meant a
Oh, my
rifle
bad.
capable of burst fire. Assault weapons doesn't mean anything, and that includes handguns with scary triggers. So they
Okay.
say assault rifles, but the legislation is assault weapons, which would ban handguns as well. And that's the point. They don't
Okay.
even care because at the end game, if you look at the legislation, it's just they want to ban handguns.
Well, no, this is the 1994 to 2004.
Yeah, it was assault weapons. Weapons.
Oh, it was? Okay.
Yeah. It was really really silly. It included all kinds of magazines. It affected handguns and everything as well.
Okay.
Let me ask you this: since you've been on our show, what other programs? I know I've seen you in a few. But what other programs have reached out to you proactively to get you to appear?
I mean, practically everyone. Practically everyone. Not in like big numbers, like for like big league media, big league media. But
Thank you.
no, not you. I'm saying that
Put a
Trump.
cancel
Big
on that
league.
free mug we had sent out to Mr. Kashuv.
Lock of my hair.
I love you guys though, but no. We have to make sure that I pick the right interviews because I don't want to get like my interview get it chopped up by
Right.
some left wing interview and it looks like I don't know what I'm saying or.
Okay,
Big
well that's
topic.
interesting because you said pick the right interviews. So, but are you willing to do interviews with people who disagree with you, so long as it's
Well, yeah,
not chopped up?
definitely. I did Piers Morgan. Piers Morgan was fun. Did you see
Okay.
that?
Well, no. Okay, tell us for those who don't know. Tell us how that went.
I mean, it was 2:40 in the morning. I hadn't slept. I had like half a what was it, Dr. Pepper, and we just got on air, and then he just started like spouting all this like false information that was just like had like absolutely no substance to the debate. It was just like all random facts about how an 8-year-old girl shot her father because they gave her an Uzi machine gun to shoot at range, and she shot her father. And I'm like, what does this have to do with the actual debate? And then there was like other random facts that he kept on like shoving in there that had made like no sense.
Yeah,
Like
that sounds like
didn't
weird.
help at all.
Yeah.
I
Sounds
was just like telling him like general facts that like just facts that are well known.
Well, you know what's funny? Again, to draw this contrast, because David Hogg is the darling of the left right now. Okay, he doesn't do any voices of opposition as far as the programs, right? He does not.
Oh,
do
I don't. Okay, well, like I mean that makes sense because they would actually like ask back follow-up questions.
Right, but I'm comparing it with you. Whereas on the flip side, you can see footage. Everyone did the crisis actor thing, which is totally obviously false. David Hogg is not a crisis actor, but they took that from footage of him going, "Hold on, let me retake that." So he wants edited interviews with people who agree with him. You are like, I have to pick my interviews carefully. Now it's not like a paper champion picking people who aren't real contenders in boxing. He's saying I have to pick it carefully because I want to find people to disagree with. But I want to make sure they don't edit me out of context.
Take cheap shots.
It is a total 180 from David Hogg, and this kid hogs the spotlight.
Well, I can mess up really quickly and like screw everything up just by like saying one wrong line on live television.
That's true. But I appreciate your gonads and willing to stand in there with people who disagree with you. If none of these other kids are doing it, I think comment in the comment section, people who are watching this. Can we all agree that none of the other kids are doing this? None of the other kids are going on at Piers Morgan at 2:30 and making sure it's unedited. You're the only one, whether people agree or disagree with you, you're the only teenager from Parkland, Florida doing that. That's got to feel good, right?
I mean, it's fun. I mean, I debate it like I debate like my normal friends at school.
Yeah, well, that's not
I've
really
only
fair.
had one actual real debate. It was with Piers Morgan, but I mean, I'd love to have more. I mean, if anyone asked me, would you like to go on CNN or do this or actually like have a live interview, then sure.
What about some kind of a town hall with you and some of your fellow classmates who've been making the rounds? Is there any possibility of that? Since you all go to the same school, sitting down, saying no, let's have a discussion of our own differing ideas, even if it's not.
Well, that was like two things happened with that. The first one was like Harvard invited absolutely everyone except me for their discussion, and I was like, look, we're having a discussion. Oops, let's not invite the one Republican from Stoneman Douglas.
Right.
Let's not do that. And the same thing was with Twitter. Twitter originally hadn't invited me to do like a live stream which is like if you're having a live stream about Stoneman Douglas, at least invite one kid from the opposite point of view. But I'm doing an interview with Twitter later on this week, I think.
Okay.
Like not an interview, a live stream.
Okay. So, but you weren't a part of that initial one that was planned.
No.
So yeah, what's the discussion then? If you're not there, there is no discussion. It's just, oh yeah, agree, yeah, here, grumble, grumble, grumble.
Yeah, I feel like had I been there, it wouldn't have been a discussion. It would have quickly become a debate.
Well, like no, I think you're pretty, you're agreeable. I don't think you're a contentious person. I just think you disagree with some of their views, and you're actually far more moderate probably than a lot of people like myself are on the issue. So it certainly seems, I mean, if you look at even the senators you've met with, you have reached across the aisle. You didn't slam dunk the president and brag about it.
Yeah, I mean, we met with senators because we had to reach across the aisle because this act was like completely bipartisan. We have to, like, this shouldn't just be a Republican issue or a Democrat issue.
Well, let me ask you this, because David Hogg bragged about how he got a call from Donald Trump and he hung up on him, and they were on Bill Maher and his friend, I can't remember his friend, they both talked about how he hung up on the president. So let me flip that. Let's say tomorrow you get a call from Elizabeth Warren or Debbie Wasserman Schultz or Bernie Sanders saying like, hey, I'd like to. What would you hang up on them? I
mean, we've been trying to contact Bernie Sanders, and he has not responded. We also we reached out to Hillary Clinton's daughter, Chelsea Clinton, and we set up a meeting with her before all this happened. Like 2 weeks ago, we're like, so then she spat out her book deal, but we do want to meet with people across the aisle, and Bernie Sanders still hasn't responded.
Just ding dong dash him. He goes nuts. Just order pizzas, and he's like, pizzas again, son of a bitch.
Well, I think it's another testament to Kyle's reaching across the aisles. A tweet of his that impressed me was, he said, while I disagree with my classmates' propose on policy and politics, there are good people who've been trying to advocate for what they believe in. I just disagree with most of what they say, but attacking them as people is wrong. Dissecting their arguments is more effective. I think that's also a very unique tweet.
For a kid his age.
For a kid his age at that high school.
At your age, I would have just been like, he's a dick. I don't like him, he's a dick. If I had Twitter,
I'll be back. I'm gonna go laugh about boobs.
Yeah, I'm gonna go laugh about boobs.
So cancerous. Twitter is so cancerous.
The fact that you recognize that is already you are very ahead of your time, sir. I couldn't tell you because I haven't been there in over a week. I don't know. What's it like out there? Can someone let me know? Yeah, now that is a very different approach. Why do you think that is? Is that Is that your padre or your madre?
Yeah, that was my mom telling me we have to leave in like 15 minutes.
All right, okay. Well, we'll wrap this up because I don't want to get you in trouble with your mom. This is a bizarre interview. This is bizarre, and this is an international incident, and a kid who's been all over, and it's like my mom's gonna be.
I mean, like honestly, like to be frank with you, none of these kids should be getting the media attention that we're getting. Like we aren't experts. We don't have all the solutions. Why are we like parading kids on CNN, and why are we in ABC, and for what reason?
Well, here it's just because we're exploitative and we have no shame.
Well, that's true. Like, actually,
I was waterboarded for ratings. No, here the reason why, like I said, is I agree with you, but unfortunately, they have already been thrust into the spotlight, and they've said, "I speak for all of Stoneman Douglas," and so you're the only person saying, "Listen, I don't hate these kids. I don't wish them, but I don't agree with them, and they don't speak for all of us." And so, I don't have the luxury, if someone like you exists, of not hosting you.
Well, yeah, I mean, I think you're absolutely right. There are definitely a bunch of Republicans at Stoneman Douglas who aren't represented in the media, and I think I don't say I speak for all Republicans or even for all of the kids at Stoneman Douglas.
No,
and there are kids with like a variety of like viewpoints at Stoneman Douglas.
Yeah, I know.
But it's a select group of people who have been like, they kind of say that they represent everyone from Stoneman Douglas, which isn't true.
Exactly. This is like the left. They see everyone as a monolith, right? They say, okay, you're black. Okay, you're a woman. Okay, you're gay. Okay, you're in Parkland, Florida. It's like, no, hold on a second. I'm a person and I have a different point of view. Just because David Hogg walks to the same homeroom class that I do doesn't mean that he agrees with me and everything. Wait, just because I'm black doesn't mean that I agree with everything that Whoopi Goldberg says. Wait, just because I'm gay doesn't mean that I think Liza Minnelli kicks ass. Okay, we have different opinions and that's okay. It's the same symptom. We see this here. This is why I very much appreciate you hosting. A couple of reasons. Let me list this. First off, you're very civil. You're able to have a dialogue and you're able to dissect ideas as opposed to just going after the person, which is very admirable in someone your age. You're also able to say you don't know and then maybe you'll look into it more. You also understand that people are individuals and don't claim to speak for everybody. These are very different from how the left see people. You are of these kids, you are the one taking personal responsibility, getting active, approaching legislators, actually trying to create real change, which may happen before the march, which I just find hysterical. You're the kind of guy who people should want. If they're going to exploit having a high school kid on, they should say,
They should exploit me.
Yeah, they should exploit you. They should say, at least this kid is the kind of kid who we know is mentally stable enough to handle an interview, as opposed to someone who's just going me, limelight. It's the unwilling kind of hero. So I hope other people see the difference between you and the leftists.
I mean, we're actually doing something good. Like, we're actually pushing something versus just marching in the streets. Marching is fine. Like, you can march all you want, but that's not going to change the legislators' opinions. I think what we managed to accomplish is quite amazing.
Well, I hope that, listen, I hope that you do. And I mean, I've talked about baby steps. You saw what happened in Maryland today, where the officer shot the gunman. You know, it's one of those things you can't...
And that kills the entire narrative of not having guns at school, and I love that, because someone with a gun stopped the bad guy with the gun, and that's what needs to happen at our school. And it's like, look, this man actually did the job he was paid to do, versus waiting outside and being a coward. And guns at schools are actually a good thing.
Yes, well, exactly. Well, to be fair, they were waiting in their Lamborghini over there. You know, if I had those bucket seats, I wouldn't leave them for a while.
Hard to get out of too.
No, that's a good point. And here's the thing: they go, well, that's a trained police officer. Well, hold on, we had trained officers in your situation who didn't do what they were supposed to do. We have people who get their concealed carry. Far less likely to commit crimes. They're far more trained in firearms than the average person, and at least it gives you a fighting shot. I say, I don't want to mandate that all teachers carry firearms, but if a teacher can carry a firearm at a Denny's or anywhere else because he's gone through the class, he has the permit, he should be allowed to protect himself and his students at school. And we see that today, even if it's an officer, the only thing that stops the bad guy with a gun is a good guy with a gun. Even
like, the gun isn't going to magically disappear. Like, no one's going to stop the shooter. Someone has to stop the shooter.
Right.
And then when people, I don't know, I was going to say this before you said this, but
did you try running?
I find it funny how, like, people like Bernie Sanders are calling for, like, gun reform, and then it's like, look, if you want to take away guns, then give up your armed security.
Right. No, you're exactly right. And by the way, the gun that the police officer used, guarantee you that would be an assault weapon, because the magazine capacity would put it under that category.
Have you tried darting into the hallways and offering a buyback program?
Yes. Perhaps have you tried that? Next time, just offer a buyback. That's how they do it. That's
tell them it's mandatory. That'll get them.
It's mandatory. Exactly. It's a mandatory buyback. I'm sure the gunmen's from henceforth will abide.
Turn that AR into some art.
It's like, it's also hypocritical. They're like, give us, trust the government even more. Give away your guns. Trust the government, but the government failed us on so many different levels. So it's like, trust the government more, even after they failed. Well, people need to see the hypocrisy.
I don't know that we need to trust the government, and David Hogg might not be the hero we need. But the one we deserve.
The one we deserve.
Kyle, I know you can't get it. I would love to have the kid on my show. Good luck with that. Where's the best place for people to find you and follow this legislation that you've been working on and meeting with politicians? Where's the best place?
Twitter, so at Kyle Kashuv.
At Kyle Kashuv. Well, that bars me from the equation. I can't follow you. So I don't want to get you in trouble with your mom, but Kyle, I really appreciate you coming on the program. Keep us updated, and man, keep up the good fight. I know high school can...
I'll hit you up on Twitter.
Yeah, thank you very much. All right, hang up on him, his smart ass. Hey, did you like this video? Of course you did. Unless there's something wrong with you, in which case you can comment below. What's your problem with this video? We want to hear from you, and we promise you 100%, I give you, my word is my bond, we'll answer every single negative comment. For those who are normal, you can leave a thumbs up and subscribe.